Tonight,
there is a fundamental unfairness to an accused where the evidence of what was said back then isn't available to them.
how missing evidence led a Winnipeg judge to agree with Peter Nygard's lawyers that some charges should be stayed. Also tonight, the Manitoba Bar Association claps back over comments the Premier made about a judge's bail decision. Plus, what's old is new again.
I just don't want to be a hoarder. I'm a collector.
A look at the retro and vintage Winnipeg signage that could soon be yours.
CTV News. Live from downtown Winnipeg with Marilee Caruso.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Peter Nygard has avoided a trial here in Winnipeg after a provincial judge ordered a stay of proceedings. It all unfolded in court earlier today. CTV's Danton Unger joins us now live with the details. So, Danton, why were the charges stayed against Nygard?
Because police lost decades-old evidence, which a provincial judge says resulted in a breach of Nygard's rights to a fair trial. Peter Nygard will not go to trial in Manitoba.
Well, obviously, he's satisfied with the outcome.
The 84-year-old former fashion mogul was facing charges of sexual assault and unlawful confinement. But on Wednesday, Judge Mary Kate Harvey ordered a stay of proceedings, saying Nygard's charter rights were breached after police lost decades-old evidence. There is significant prejudice to the ability of counsel to make full answer and defense, and therefore to the accused's right to a fair trial, Harvey wrote in her 41-page decision. Nygard was charged in 2023 after a woman came forward alleging she was locked in a suite and sexually assaulted in 1993 during a visit to Nygard's warehouse in Winnipeg. Court heard following the alleged assault, police conducted a brief wellness check with the woman, and a week later, RCMP took a full statement at her home in Vancouver. But any notes or records from those interactions are gone, either lost or purged from police databases in the 3 decades since. It is critically important that police forces take appropriate steps to ensure that communications with victims, even those that may be incomplete, not be purged from a police information storage system without appropriate evaluation, Harvey wrote in her decision, calling this one of the clearest of cases warranting a stay of proceedings.
There is a fundamental unfairness to an accused where the evidence of what was said back then isn't available to them.
Nygard's lawyer Jerry Wiebe says she hopes the outcome of this case can lead to improvements.
I can understand how, when a case ends the way that this one did, it's unsatisfying or it feels unfinished because it didn't end with a determination on the merits. But I think this is a learning experience for everyone involved.
But trauma therapist Shannon Maroney, who has advocated for victims of Nygard, says she worries about the message this sends to survivors.
They see what even this particular victim in this case has gone through, and they might be thinking, I'm better off just keeping this to myself. And that, I think, is one of the hardest parts to cope with this announcement.
In a statement, Manitoba's prosecution service says independent counsel is carefully reviewing the decision to assess if there's any basis for appeal. We also reached out to Vancouver RCMP for comment about the lost evidence and was told police will review the written decision and determine its impact on current operations. They add evidence collection and retention procedures have evolved considerably over the past 30 years.
So, Danton, what does this all mean for Nygard's case going forward?
Well, with this stay of proceedings, unless there's an appeal, that's it here in Manitoba. Nygard is currently serving an 11-year sentence in Ontario for 4 counts of sexual assault, though he is still facing sex assault charges in Quebec and an extradition to the United States on sex trafficking and racketeering charges.
All right, thanks for this, Danton. The Manitoba Bar Association is denouncing comments made by Premier Rob Canoe. As you saw here on CTV News last night, during question period in the Manitoba legislature, Canoe criticized a bail decision rendered by a Manitoba judge. Here's what he had to say.
In this particular instance, I think we have to, with all respect that we have for the justice system, encourage our judges and justices of the peace to reflect on the role that their decisions will have when they are learned of by the public.
The case involves a fatal crash near Altona last November that killed 35-year-old Sarah Unger and her 8-year-old daughter, Alexa. Navjeet Singh is charged with 2 counts of dangerous driving causing death. This week, a judge granted bail to Singh, even though he previously evaded police for 9 months by leaving Canada. Singh is now back in Canada to face trial. This week, a judge granted bail, allowing Singh to live in Ontario with a number of conditions. In a release, the Bar Association says Canu's comments could affect the fairness of a trial and pose a serious threat to judiciary evidence. It says, quote, Premier Canu's remarks undermine public confidence in the administration of justice and run counter to the constitutional principles that separate judicial and legislative branches of government, and politicizing individual court decisions, particularly in active cases, undermines the safeguards that ensure fair and impartial justice for all Manitobans. Manitoba's Justice Minister was asked whether he thought the Premier's comments were appropriate. Here's what Matt Wiebe had to say.
Well, as I said, the Premier's words were very clear. He made a very clear distinction between the role of the judiciary and the role of the legislative branch in government. And now I know he was, talking in general terms about the frustrations that he's heard in community. What I'm saying as the Attorney General, I'm clear about the role and the separation between those two branches, and I'm clear that we're going to support the judicial system to make sure that Manitobans are getting the justice that they deserve.
The trial is scheduled to resume in December. Police are investigating after 2 Winnipeg schools were placed in a hold and secure this afternoon. Police say Ecole Varennes and Glen Lawn Collegiate were placed under the hold at 1:15 today. A letter from Ecole Varennes principal says staff saw individuals acting in a threatening manner near the grounds, leaving shortly after being noticed. The schools were then placed under a hold and secure as police patrolled the area. The orders were lifted at 2:20 p.m. Police continue to investigate. It's Canada's most wanted list, and Winnipeg is home to 3 of the country's worst offenders still on the loose. Number 4 is Tresor Horimbiri, wanted for first-degree murder in Winnipeg. There's a $100,000 reward for anyone who helps police make an arrest. At number 7 is Chad Dandan, wanted for first-degree murder, kidnapping, and extortion. And Youssef Abdul Kader Ali is wanted for 2 counts of attempted murder and multiple firearms-related charges. He's at number 17. The Be on the Lookout program, or BOLO, released its 25 most wanted list today in Vancouver. It began in 2018 as a national public awareness campaign. The program encourages Canadians to stay alert and help locate fugitives. Today, models resembling the suspects, complete with realistic-looking masks, took the stage behind the podium.
It may feel uncomfortable, especially if you're in this room today, to see the 25 most wanted fugitives in flesh behind me. And it should. On the one hand, these fugitives have been awarded BOLO top 25 spots, not only because of the major crimes they're charged with, but because they know they're wanted and they're actively evading arrest.
If you have any information about these 3 men, you are asked to call the BOLO tip line at 431-334-9160. And by the way, number 1 on that list is a Toronto murder suspect. A Winnipeg man is in custody after a bank robbery last night. Police say around 6:30, someone went to the front counter of the bank on Corden Avenue and handed a note to the teller. They made off with a vehicle after receiving an undisclosed amount of cash. About 7 hours later, police arrested a suspect at a home in the South River Heights area. A 29-year-old man is charged with robbery. All right, let's bring in Catherine Dow now and get a first look at your Skywatch evening forecast. Boy, did temperatures ever rebound today after the cool start to the work week.
I know, I wasn't a fan. Mother Nature heard my plea. Yes, Marilyn, we banded together, and we've had some really gorgeous couple of days, and if you can believe it, it's likely only going to get warmer from here. Not a lot to show you on our radar. It's been so clear today and likely to stay that way overnight. As you can see, though, to the north, increasing cloudiness throughout the afternoon and likely to continue into the evening. Plus, we've been eyeing that system that developed in the Northwest Territories that has been threatening to bring rain to northerly parts of the province. It could spread a little bit further to the south than we once thought. I'll have details on who will get likely some rainfall overnight, how long it will last, and how hot we are looking at with those highs here in southern Manitoba. Spoiler alert, they are above seasonal. Speaking of, 16 degrees currently, about 12 is a typical high for this time of year, so we've been doing very well in terms of our heat. Winds, though, very strong, kind of shaking our camera around out of the south-southeast at 26 to 37 kilometers per hour. Barometric pressure is falling this hour and the humidity at 34%.
The Bathfitter Live Eye is brought to you by Bathfitter, your bath and shower experts for more than 40 years.
A Mountie is being charged following an investigation by the province's police watchdog. The independent investigation unit was looking into an incident that occurred in July of last year. The IIU says RCMP officers were chasing a suspect on a bicycle in Portage La Prairie after a report of shoplifting. After the arrest, the man said he was having chest pain and trouble breathing. He was later hospitalized with a punctured lung. The IIU says one officer is charged with one count of assault causing bodily harm. A provincial program offering a rebate for security upgrades to your home is being renewed. The government is once again accepting applications for its security rebate program. The program offers up to $300 back for the cost of security upgrades, such as cameras, alarm systems, locks, and other such equipment. It's open to homeowners and tenants and can be used towards items
took us around, and so we got to see a few more of the nooks and crannies.
Housed in a former convent, the museum showcases Francophone and Métis history, but it's been closed since June 2024 for renovations, and now it might not be able to reopen in time to celebrate the building's 175-year anniversary in 2026.
We'll call it a jewel. It's in the heart of Winnipeg, and it is a good part of who we are as Winnipeggers.
The museum has raised $4.5 million for the needed repairs, including a large contribution from the federal government. They need another $1.5 million by the end of the year to hit their milestone in time, so they're hoping the city can chip in.
It is a civic museum. It is their responsibility, so we're hoping that they can take the lead now and find a way of being able to help the museum achieve its goal.
St. Boniface Councillor Matt Allard is lobbying for funds in the upcoming city budget.
I know I'll be doing what I can for my office to support the initiative. I've been talking to my colleagues.
Money at City Hall is tight, and the city did give $300,000 already for roof repairs. Still, this might be more than just an anniversary date. Right now, staff are working out of the old City Hall in St. Boniface, where the Louis Riel exhibit is on display, but the museum is missing out on visitor and gift shop revenue.
At a certain point, there will be a breaking point for the museum itself as to what happens.
The city's property committee is scheduled to discuss the issue Thursday. Jeff Keel, CTV News, Winnipeg.
A local woman who offers free tattoo removal for former gang members and others looking for a fresh start is expanding her operations.
Yeah, so this van is going to be a life changer.
Della Stanky owns Mother Inc. She recently had a meeting with the Justice Minister to discuss the services she offers, and he was so impressed he offered her this new van. Stanky says it allows her to begin offering tattoo removal in the north, and she already has plans to visit the Paul Correctional Center. She says demand for her services has exploded in recent years. She visits 4 local prisons every week and estimates she has more than 700 clients.
Not only is it a safety thing, but it's actually giving people a fresh start. you know, some of them are in their 30s and 40s and getting their first job, their first apartment, and they're so proud of that. They don't want to ever go back to that lifestyle or anything. So, I mean, I couldn't be happier. I mean, this is just my dream, is to keep this going forward, and if I can, I'll do this for another 20, 25 years if I can.
And it's not just ex-gang members, Stanky says. Many of her clients are women and girls who have been forced to get tattoos by abusive boyfriends or pimps. She hopes to one day be able to offer her services in other provinces as well. Soon enough, motorists will be driving through snow and ice, and Manitoba Public Insurance is opening registration for winter driving courses. The course is designed to avoid scenarios like this, giving students the knowledge and skills they need to drive safely in a Manitoba winter. It's all part of MPI's Driver's Ed High School Driver Education Program. There are 2,900 seats available for the winter session, which runs from December through February. Registration begins on October 15th at 8 a.m. But first, new drivers need to register as an MPI customer at an MPI service center or Autopack broker. On the 15th, centers will open early to help customers prepare for registration. You can also call the MPI Contact Center or its driver education phone line. The MPI website has all of the information you need. Well, if you wanted your sign to stand out in the 1980s, neon lights were often added. As time changed, so did the signs we used to advertise businesses and services. But what happens to all those old signs? Well, many end up at SRS Signs here in Winnipeg. And as CTV's John Hendricks shows you, a huge number of them are being auctioned off.
This may look like a giant outdoor Scrabble set, but these letters are a small piece of Winnipeg and indeed Canadian history.
Here's Sears and here's the Bay, both gone companies now, part of retail history.
Now they're both part of a huge sign collection at SRS Signs. The company began its life back in 1999, servicing existing signs with burnt-out light bulbs.
I would drive around the city at night, look for signage that was out, and then I would approach the people the next day, either telling them or showing them a picture of their signage that was burnt out.
Today, the company has about 30 employees, making many of the signs you see across the city.
We've made the Winnipeg sign when it was made, and we also did the Garbage Hill sign.
But as new signs go up, old ones must come down. Like the old banner at the Burton Cummings Theatre and the Walker Theatre sign before it, plus a wide assortment of fast food, fine dining, even Winnipeg Transit signs.
And now with Winnipeg Transit changing the bus routes again to a new look, which is blue and silver, I thought before all the kids and everybody forget what they used to look like, now is a good time to get them out.
And not just out in this parking lot behind the store. Each and every one of these signs is being auctioned off, and Shane Story's collection of signs will get a lot smaller. But it's only thinning out, not vanishing completely.
Everything that you see here, I've kept my own. I have a small set of Sears letters. I kept a small set of the Bay letters. I just don't want to be a hoarder. I'm a collector.
And on October 28th, other collectors or just people looking for a connection to the past will get a chance to bring these signs home. John Hendricks, CTV News, Winnipeg.
The signs will be auctioned off by McSherry Auction in Stonewall. Bidding is all being done online. Still to come tonight, a pipe dream possibly on the back table.
Certainly, it could be another one of the levers that increases North American energy security.
CTV News has learned the Keystone XL pipeline was discussed during trade negotiations at the White House. How it may factor into a future deal just ahead. Taking a look at the markets tonight, crude oil gained 82 cents. The Canadian dollar held steady. Gold futures jumped another $66. The TSX added 150 points. The Dow Jones lost 1 point, while the Nasdaq rose 255 points. The province is continuing to hold rental rates for agricultural crown lands. The agriculture minister says the rate will remain frozen at $3.66 per animal unit month. The province says there are roughly 1,700 leaseholders in Manitoba who use the land for grazing, hay, and other activities.
You can now also take part in a public survey on the future of the program. The province wants your feedback on areas such as lease allocation and renewal methods. Just head to engagemb.ca. Manitoba Hydro wants to include Indigenous-owned wind farms into its power supply. Today, the utility issued a request for qualified suppliers to come forward with plans. The call for power is part of the Manitoba government's Affordable Energy Plan. Hydro will purchase up to 600 megawatts of new wind energy. Each wind farm can be as large as 200 megawatts and must be majority owned by a Manitoba Indigenous nation. Hydro will evaluate the submissions in January. Qualified proponents can then submit their projects for final review. For more information on the project, visit Manitoba Hydro's website. Winnipeg fire crews were called to a house fire in the Spence neighborhood this morning. The fire was reported just before 5 in the 600 block of Furby Street, just south of Cumberland Avenue. Several fire engines could be seen at the home, which had some boarded up windows, and traffic was restricted in the area. The fire was declared under control less than an hour later. No injuries were reported. The cause of that fire, though, is now under investigation. Prime Minister Mark Carney is back in the nation's capital from his trip to Washington without any tangible trade progress made with the U.S. Carney faced tough questions in the House of Commons from the opposition as the U.S. Commerce Secretary is dismissing any deal that would address auto tariffs. CTV's Mike LeCouture reports.
Prime Minister Mark Carney is back in Ottawa without a deal on tariffs. However, CTV News can confirm the Keystone XL pipeline was part of yesterday's discussion at the White House.
Prime Minister, did you and Mr. Trump agree to revive the Keystone XL pipeline?
We had very good discussions on a wide range of issues, and I look forward to talking to Parliament.
A source with knowledge of the discussions in the Oval Office yesterday confirms reviving the Keystone XL pipeline was raised between the two leaders. The extension would bring Alberta crude into the U.S. It was in the context of more energy cooperation between the two countries, but was also linked to relief on steel and aluminum tariffs.
Certainly, it could be another one of the levers that increases North American energy security, and so it certainly warrants exploring.
South Bow is now the proponent of the project, and while the Canadian company isn't privy to conversations between the governments, a spokesperson tells CTV News, quote, South Bow is supportive of efforts to find solutions that increase the transportation of Canadian crude oil. While a pipeline may be possible, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick is dismissing the prospect of an auto deal with Canada. Sources say at a Eurasia Group summit, Lutnick said the Americans could continue buying auto parts from Canada, but that's about it.
Auto pack's been around since the 1960s. You can't unscramble an egg, you have to make the omelet larger.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. On Parliament Hill, Opposition Leader Pierre Poilievre called out the Prime Minister for not getting a deal in D.C. and promising more investment in the U.S.
The Prime Minister went pathetically to the White House to offer a $1 trillion gift, bowing before the President in weakness.
We have the best deal with the Americans, and the third thing that's true is we will get an even better deal because
A source with knowledge of the Oval Office discussion describes it as a very initial conversation to see if President Trump would be interested in reviving the Keystone expansion. Mike LeCouture, CTV News, Ottawa.
Meantime, the head of the Manitoba Chambers of Commerce says he's hearing optimism about the ongoing trade talks from the business community.
At the same time, that level of uncertainty that we've had for the past 10 months continues to be problematic, and the sooner we can find a solution to this situation, the better it's going to be for everyone.
Chuck Davidson says business leaders were always hoping for a great deal rather than a fast deal, and says there's reason to believe that may soon be coming. But he notes, even if a deal is reached, there's still an upcoming review of the Canada-United States-Mexico agreement, which could shake things up again, which is why he says Canadian industries should continue to look for ways to lower their reliance on the U.S.
Yeah, we're still seeing that we need to continue to focus on those interprovincial trade barriers. Needs to be something that we've talked about repeatedly over the course of the last number of months as well. That's something that needs to continue. We also need to make sure that we're looking at potential other export markets. Those are things that we've seen different programs coming out from both provincial and federal government to help support businesses as they kind of go down that path.
Davidson adds it's nice to see the Prime Minister and U.S. President seeming to enjoy a more friendly relationship, but Until a deal is reached, he is not putting much stock in it. The union representing striking Canada Post workers will meet tonight with the federal minister in charge of the Crown Corporation. About 55,000 workers walked off the job 2 weeks ago after Procurement Minister Joel Lightbound announced changes to Canada Post's mandate. They would allow for the end of daily mail delivery, the expansion of community mailboxes, and the closure of some rural post offices. The corporation welcomed the changes and tabled a new offer last week, but the union is accusing Ottawa of trampling on the collective bargaining process. Today, the Jobs Minister urged the union to respond to the latest offer.
The process is that they negotiate till they get to a deal that everybody can live with. And so our expectation is if the union is not satisfied with that offer, they should table a counteroffer. That's how mediation works, that's how negotiations work, and the Federal Mediation Service is there to help them have those conversations.
The minister did not respond directly to a question about whether the government would intervene to end the strike by using the Canada Labour Code. In the U.S., former FBI Director James Comey has pleaded not guilty to lying to Congress. Comey made his first court appearance in Virginia today. He is accused of providing false statements and obstructing a congressional proceeding 5 years ago. Comey plans to ask the judge to throw out the charges, alleging they were brought by Donald Trump. The trial date has been set for January 5th. Trump fired Comey during his first term as U.S. president. And the U.S. president is calling for Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker and Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson to be jailed. Trump has previously called the city a war zone amid protests against immigration enforcement. Trump is accusing the mayor of failing to protect U.S. immigration and customs officers. Both Johnson and Pritzker are Democrats. The comments come as 200 National Guard troops from Texas arrived in Illinois ahead of a planned deployment in Chicago. The Department of Homeland Security launched a crackdown on illegal immigrants in Chicago last month. 3 more Nobel Prize laureates were announced in Stockholm today.
The Royal Swedish Academy of Sciences has today decided to award the 2025 Nobel Prize in Chemistry to Susumu Kitagawa, Kyoto University, Japan, Richard Robson, University of Melbourne, Australia, and Omar Yagi, University of California, Berkeley, USA.
The scientists developed molecular constructions which have large spaces where gases and other chemicals can flow. They can be used to harvest water from desert air and capture carbon dioxide, helping tackle climate change and a lack of fresh water.
You should be looking at your roster and trying to move it around on a weekly basis.
Still ahead, the Bombers gear up for a trip to Edmonton to take on the Elks. Plus, the Jets re-signed star winger Kyle Connor. We'll have the details on the contract extension just ahead.
Picture perfect conditions on the way to Winnipeg, with a bit of an exception as I step out of the way here. Mainly sunny skies Friday and Saturday with above seasonal highs of 16 and 18. Sunday, though, we start to see the rain roll in. Temperatures hold up to 17. But on Turkey Monday, 8 degrees, much cooler under periods of rain.
Just days before the start of the season, the Winnipeg Jets have secured one of its top players. Kyle Connor signed an 8-year contract extension with the Jets worth $96 million U.S. The Stars left winger had 41 goals and 56 assists for the Jets last season. The two-time All-Star also won the Lady Byng Trophy in 2022 for his sportsmanlike play. Winnipeg drafted Connor in the first round in 2015. He's played 9 seasons in Winnipeg. The Jets' home opener is set for October 9th against the Dallas Stars. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers are headed to Edmonton this week after a decisive victory in Hamilton.
He wants a deep shot instead.
With only 3 games to go in the regular season, the Bombers sit in 4th spot in the CFL's West Division. They beat the Elks in their only meeting back in June. Head coach Mike O'Shea is working on his roster and says part of his job is to mix up the players every week.
You should be looking at your roster and trying to move it around on a weekly basis to give you the best chance every single week. And a lot of times that just amounts to continuity, and sometimes it amounts to, making some different changes based on a completely different game plan,
The Winnipeg Blue Bombers take on the Edmonton Elks at Commonwealth Stadium Saturday at 6 o'clock. Junior varsity teams opened up week 7 on the gridiron with an exciting matchup at River East Collegiate. Look at him go. All right, Miles Mac Collegiate won this JV9 game 35-3. Also in JV football Tuesday, Brandon's Vincent Massey High School beat Grant Park 20-14, and John Taylor Collegiate won 25-6 against Kildonan East Collegiate.
CTV Skywatch weather brought to you by South Beach Casino and Resort. Visit southbeachcasino.ca.
Catherine Dow back now with an update on some rain you are tracking for parts of the province.
Yes, very northerly areas could be getting a little soggy tonight. We will get our turn in the south in due time. For the time being, though, very clear. Not a lot to show you here on the radar. You are seeing increasing cloudiness to the north. That'll be the case throughout the evening. We mentioned that rainfall, this system here that kind of popped up around the northwest territories. As the evening progresses, it's likely to kind of kiss the very northerly border there. Slight chance of some rainfall to Churchill, and then it spreads out into tomorrow, bringing a stronger chance of some moisture to the northwest corner, and then fanning out further, even coming a little further south. We here in the south, though, staying clear to kick us off. Some clouds into the afternoon, a break from those very strong winds that we were seeing today. Tonight will still be quite gusty, and then from Friday on, we're starting off under those clear conditions once again. The north clearing out nicely as well, but we too are not totally exempt here in southern Manitoba. Details on that in a moment. 10 degrees is what we're looking at overnight. I mentioned those strong southerly winds, still strong at 30, gusting at times to 50 kilometers per hour. Into tomorrow, we kick it off in the double digits, 11 degrees under clear skies, and those winds are already letting up out of the south at 20 kilometers per hour. We're getting up to a high of 19 degrees tomorrow. 12 or 11 is more typical highs for this time of year. We'll start off clear. We will get increasing cloudiness into the afternoon, and those southerly winds sustaining as well. To the rest of the province, that slight chance of rainfall in Churchill, while the rest of the region just deals with some cloud coverage. Temperatures pretty decent overnight in that mid to upper single digit region. Then tomorrow comes that very slight chance of rainfall, about a 30% shot. You'll likely start off with some sunshine, clouds into the afternoon, and then maybe some rainfall as that system pushes out of Churchill. To the northwest, a few clouds building overnight. Temperatures at about 7 in Opaskwayak Nation, the Paw and Flin Flon. A little bit more overcast in Lynn Lake. And then tomorrow, those very northern parts do have a chance of getting a taste of that system. Temperatures decent, a few degrees above seasonal into the low double digits for the most part. Southwestern Manitoba, clear skies for you. Decent, mild temperatures overnight. And then tomorrow, it continues to be balmy. 20 degrees in Brandon and Neepawa, 18 in Dauphin, Swan River at 15. And for us here in the south central regions, clear as mentioned, gusty. And then tomorrow, increasing cloudiness into the afternoon. And northwestern Ontario, clear day for you as well, and decently mild. And then into tomorrow, mix of sun and cloud, above seasonal highs in the upper teens. Your Skywatch picture of the day, I believe this is Zoe saying hello to a little squirrel friend outside her window in St. Joseph, Manitoba. Thanks to Ben and Tammy for snapping that cute shot. And then this one is pretty amazing. Missy captured this moment in Ebb and Flow First Nation under that stunning rainbow. Thank you everyone who submitted, and if you have any weather photos, we would love to see them. Email them to winnipegweather@ctv.ca.
The CTV Skywatch Pick of the Day is brought to you by MJ the Musical at Centennial Concert Hall, November 5th to 9th.
Still ahead, researchers stumble upon clues women are at a higher risk of depression than men. We will explain what they found next in Medical Watch. Taking a walk is becoming more dangerous than most of us think. Pedestrian-related crashes in Manitoba are on the rise. Since 2019, there have been, on average, 19 pedestrian deaths every year in this province. In fact, in 2022, the peak, 22 pedestrians died. And joining me now to talk more about these concerning statistics and how you can keep yourself and your family safe is Tara Seal with Manitoba Public Insurance. Tara, good to speak with you.
Hey, Marilee, thanks for having me.
First, just how concerning are these statistics I just shared?
I think they're extraordinarily concerning. This means that, this year alone, 12 Manitobans aren't going home, and it's because they were walking on the road. Walking on the road should not be a death sentence, and for those 12 people, it was. So it's very concerning.
Yeah, 12 this year as far as fatalities. Where are we at in terms of pedestrian-related crashes?
Yeah, we have 271 total, with the majority of those happening in urban areas, and 44 of those collisions happening in rural areas. So they really are happening all over the province, while for sure we're seeing larger proportions in urban areas.
And this time of year is particularly dangerous for pedestrians, as we often see these crashes occurring more often at this time of year, right? Why is that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. We do see higher incidents of pedestrian collisions in the fall and winter months. There is no real data proving why that's the case. It just that's what the numbers are. I don't know if it's kids being back in school and families getting back into the routines and just being out and about in those urban areas a little bit more. That could be it. But again, no hard data to say, but we do know that most of those collisions occur between 3 and 5 p.m. at night. So it's really when people are heading home from work or school, doing that afternoon commute. That's where we're seeing the most collisions occurring.
So what is your advice to pedestrians?
Our advice to pedestrians is, be alert. So many times I personally have seen a pedestrian with earbuds in, looking at their phone, hit that button on the crosswalk and just step out into traffic. And yes, they absolutely do have the right of way, but there should never be an expectation that there's no traffic, right? So pedestrians really need to look and make sure that there's no cars coming, or that traffic has come to a complete stop. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention for that. Go back to basics. Look both ways before you cross the street. Where that's one simple thing you can do to save your life. Another thing that we would recommend for pedestrians to do is to wear reflective clothing, especially if you're walking at dusk or in the evening, so that vehicles and the drivers can see you a little easier. You want to make sure that you're visible to others using the roadway to eliminate the probability of having a collision.
An important note, given how fast it gets dark this time of year, you might leave and it's not dark out, but halfway through your walk it is. What about drivers? We know they play a role in this as well. What should they be doing to ensure safety?
The number one thing that MPI tells drivers in order to be safe in all situations is slow down. And that applies here too, right? If drivers slow down, you have more chance of seeing a pedestrian step out onto the roadway and being able to react in time. But specifically, you want to make sure that you're slowing down around crosswalks and school zones. Crosswalks, you can anticipate pedestrians will be there. School zones, children are unpredictable, as we all know, so they can kind of jump out into traffic at any point. So you just want to be careful when you're around schools or playgrounds, that type of thing. If you can, make eye contact with the pedestrians so that they know that you see them and can stop. You want to wait until the pedestrian has crossed all the way across the street. Don't wait until they're kind of off your half of the roadway. You want to make sure they're safely on the other side on the sidewalk before you proceed. Those are just a couple things that everyone can do to make sure that all road users are able to use the road safely, because we do have to recognize that pedestrians are extremely vulnerable. They don't have the protection of the metal framing, the airbags, those types of things, right? There's absolutely no protection for them when they're on the roadway.
Some very important and timely tips. Tara, thanks so much for sharing them with us tonight.
Thanks, Marilee. I appreciate it.
A new report shows preventable harm continues to be a significant issue in Canadian hospitals, affecting thousands of patients and adding pressure to the healthcare system. The data from the Hospital Harm Project suggests that between 2024 and 2025, 1 in 17 acute care hospital stays involved at least one harmful event. In a quarter of those cases, patients experienced more than one. The report tracks 31 types of harm, including infections, post-surgical complications, medication errors, and pressure injuries. Patients who experience harm stay in hospital almost 5 times longer, and their care costs more than 4 times as much. While overall harm rates have stabilized, researchers with the Canadian Institute for Health Information say that progress has plateaued. A commonly prescribed opioid may not be doing much to ease long-term pain. The study published in the journal BMJ Evidence-Based Medicine questions the effectiveness and safety of tramadol, a drug often seen as a safer alternative. The study concluded the synthetic opioids' benefits for chronic pain are limited and may not even reach the minimum threshold patients can feel. Researchers analyzed 19 clinical trials involving more than 6,500 people and found tramadol only had a slight effect on reducing chronic pain, along with an increased risk of side effects like nausea, dizziness, constipation, even cardiac events. The study's lead author says the findings suggest tramadol's risks likely outweigh its benefits, and doctors should consider alternatives before prescribing it. Women are genetically at a higher risk of clinical depression than men. That's according to a new study by Australian researchers. Billed as one of the largest ever studies of its kind, scientists poured through the DNA of almost 200,000 people with depression to pinpoint shared genetic flags. Women had almost twice as many of these genetic markers linked to depression than men. Some of the genetic changes could also alter biological pathways linked to metabolism or hormone production. Researchers say the findings could lead to changes in how depression is treated in women. The study was published in Nature Communications.
Medical Watch is brought to you by Manuke and Coster Denture Clinic.
Don't dream it, be it. The cult classic, The Rocky Horror Picture Show, is about to grace the stage here in Winnipeg. Plus, the Amazing Race Canada is looking for racers for the upcoming season, and it could be you. Spotlight is next.
Spotlight, sponsored by the Casinos of Winnipeg, presenting Paula Cole and Sophie B. Hawkins.
Spooky season is well underway down at the Assiniboine Park Zoo. Boo at the Zoo is back with its creepy cast of characters, performers, and family activities. New this year, part of the zoo has been turned into its own hair-raising town, Spookyville, complete with its own jail and haunted mansion. Organizers say the frightening fun transcends generations.
I think it's a bit of like that nostalgia factor of when they came as a kid and now they kind of get to relive that, and they also kind of bring their littles back to the zoo. And I think it's also a really fun activity to do inside the city that is accessible, that's engaging and fun, full of snacks, full of rides, that it's an all-in-one spot for your celebration of spooky season.
And of course, costumes are highly encouraged. Just leave those props at home. Boo at the Zoo runs Wednesday through Sunday all month long. An extra creepy adults-only night goes October 31st. A local theater company is helping celebrate 50 years of doing the Time Warp. That is a little sneak peek at Dramatic Theater Company's production of The Rocky Horror Show. The gender-bending cult classic musical is widely believed to be the longest-running theatrical release in history. Played on stages and screens almost continually since it gained traction with the midnight showing crowd.
Richard O'Brien, when he wrote this, it was a love letter to the movies that he grew up watching. So we're talking about science fiction, we're talking about B-movie acting, rock and roll, drag, glam, and muscle movies. So it just became like there's something in it for everyone.
Yeah.
And anyone who's ever felt like an outsider can relate to some aspect of the story.
The Dramatic Theater Company's production of The Rocky Horror Show runs between October 31st and November 2nd. The Centennial Concert Hall is also holding a film screening with a live shadow cast and an appearance by Patricia Quinn, who played Magenta in the film. That's on October 26th. This could be your chance for the adventure of a lifetime. That's right, casting is now open for season 12 of The Amazing Race Canada. Just going to need to find a partner who could be a friend, relative, spouse, or just someone you're close to, and send in an application. The show is looking for people who are adventurous, problem solvers, and strong communicators. You can head to ctv.ca/The Amazing Race Canada for all the information on how to apply. And your primetime lineup starts at 7 with Shifting Gears, followed by a double shot of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. And catch up with The Amazing Race at 8:30. And The Floor wraps things up at 10. It's all right here on CTV.
Women's clothing provided by RW & Company. Salon services provided by S&T Spa Salon.
Nothing to complain about today in terms of those temperatures. We got up to 18 degrees above seasonal, not quite as hot as this time last year. Overnight, skies stay clear, temperatures dipping down to 10. If you can believe it, even hotter tomorrow.
Thanks, Catherine. Well, finally tonight, some original artwork by late TV host and painter Bob Ross is set to be auctioned off. Auction house Bonham says 30 of Ross's paintings will be sold at various auctions. The first set for November 11th will feature the two pieces you're seeing now, Home in the Valley and Winter's Peace. Ross's shows, of course, The Joy of Painting, aired for more than a decade on PBS in the 1980s and 90s. Those will be real conversation starters on your wall if you are lucky enough to grab one. All right, that does it for us tonight. Have a good one.